So we have the Last Supper pulled up first on the for the overlay. So did you want to do the last? Did you want to run with the Last Supper first?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah. What? I'm curious to know what you thought of it. This is a movie that I found was highly controversial when I first saw it back in like '97, and I figure it's only gotten more controversial with age.
I would definitely say so. I have thoughts.
And while we're at it, let's just take a moment before we even get into any of that. Let's take a moment and just like pour one out for fucking Bill Paxton, man. Like the way he just brought that opening scene and just established this amazing premise with an amazing performance, you know, and then bowed on out and let the chaos reign right behind him.
Honestly, I am completely on board with allowing that. I read up some of the trivia on that, and it turns out that Bill Paxton actually filmed that over a break for Apollo 11.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did that in a weekend. So this entire movie was filmed over 18 days, but he did that when he was on a weekend break from Apollo 11 or 13.
Yeah, Apollo 13.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna grab my notebook.
He was in the one about the Apollo mission that went bad with Tom Hanks, right? That's Apollo 13.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was talking to one of my other writer buddies today, and as it turns out, he didn't know who Bill Paxton was, and that shocked me.
Wait, what?
I didn't know how to take that. Okay.
Yeah, okay, you know what? Here's the thing. Bill Paxton is one of those actors, though, who, like this friend of yours, does he consider himself a movie guy? Like,
definitely
is he someone
not.
who considers himself? Okay. So, yeah, Bill Paxton's one of those guys where it's like, as prolific as he is, you kind of have to be a fan. Like 99% of like your general public, they only know Bill Paxton from Game Over, man, Game Over. Like that's it. That's all he is to them. That's all he is. So trying to like explain that no, he's more than that, a lot more than that. It's going to go over some heads. So I wouldn't hold that against them.
So
I would be worried about,
but because this is my buddy and I've known him since I was 11 years old. Like I just started going off on all these movies. I was like, wait a minute, dude, Twister. I was like, you saw Twister? He's like, yeah, that's the one with the flying cow. I'm like, come on. Yes, it's the one with the flying cow.
Technically, yes, it is the one with the flying. And and I would say Twister. If I was going to say Twister, you mean the movie with the evil meteorologists? Because apparently that was a thing in that movie. That was my favorite part. Was that there was a sinister faction of evil meteorologists.
That's right. They stole the design. Bill Paxton goes up and punches the guy. Like,
yep.
Were they sponsored by Pepsi or something? Because like the scene with the busting up the soda cans makes me think that they were sponsored by Pepsi.
I mean, possibly. I mean, it certainly was a directorial choice of some kind.
However, don't care. Loved the movie.
Right.
Jumping into The Last Supper.
Right.
I got notes.
Awesome. Let's hear it.
Like I said, I haven't actually seen the movie. You're not going to remember this since
I saw it last.
Right.
Yeah, so, it's been like 20 years since the last time I watched it, but it stuck with me.
And I get why. I really do understand why. The opening scene, like just right away talking about the missing little girl, the sign, there's the crow that shows up. So much foreshadowing in the first few seconds of the film. Like literally only missing the word nevermore. Just everything else was right there with the foreshadowing. I wanted to bring attention to the opening music because an independent film, usually you wouldn't catch great opening music like this. You might catch some like doot 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 or something. Okay, not circus music, but
right, yeah, something canned, something.
More music than music.
Right.
So I was pretty surprised by this.
Yeah. The 90s was the heyday for indie productions. People were getting a lot more done for a lot less money back then.
I can see that.
As much as I hate to admit it, like that's one of those like great kind of like things about American history is that a lot of that has to do with Weinstein. Like part of the reason why Harvey Weinstein got powerful enough to be as big of a dick as he was and get away with it was because of how much great stuff he did in the 90s for indie film.
Well, yeah, that's what, I mean, holy crap. Like when I found out that, because I guess I didn't really, no, you could say I found out.
He didn't really have much to do with this one,
like,
but he
Harvey
started
Weinstein
that process.
responsible for Good Will Hunting, one of my favorite movies. Mm-hmm. Like,
well, the entire like everything that can be traced back to Kevin Smith is Weinstein allowing that to happen at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, completely didn't know that. So Ron Perlman's intro. And I got most of these. Some of them is the actors, some of them is the characters, because it's really hard to look at really famous people and then have their character name maybe mentioned and then try to remember the character's name.
I could never remember his character's name. I tried to for a while, but I couldn't, and so he's always just, because here's the thing, I always just called him his character the Rush Limbaugh knockoff, because that's who he's playing. And
Rush Limbaugh, I mean, early version of Tucker Carlson. I mean, yeah.
Well, but that's the thing is, like, this movie even came out like pre Tucker Carlson, pre Bill. What's his name?
Well, yeah, this was so Cameron Diaz
Mr. Do It Live.
This is only Cameron Diaz's second serious movie.
Mm-hmm.
So first she did that, like she did the adult film, then she did The Mask with Jim Carrey, and then that was immediately followed up by this.
Yep.
And I completely understand Cameron Diaz's career now.
Yeah, she filmed this before The Mask even came out, didn't she?
I didn't look at that timeline.
I feels like they were pretty close together, that they might have been filmed back to back, but that might be just my imagination. The 90s were a wild time. It's all kind of a blur for me.
I was a kid. Yeah. So let's see. Ron Perlman's intro onto the show on the TV completely set up the character, completely set that up. And I feel like it gave a little hint that Luke was already demented.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. He is kind of very much like even like right from the get-go, he has, and that's kind of like where you kind of ask, like, how much of the symbolism in this is deliberate, how much of it is more subconscious, because, like, to a certain degree, like Luke especially, he does kind of like stand in for like all of black people. Like, he's already, as soon as what's his ass, the hillbilly dude walks in the door, he's ready to be confrontational. Like, he knows this. However, he's like, I can spot a racist from a mile away, and I'm not even going to give him a chance. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Even before Paxton says a single word in that scene, him and Luke, which the character is Courtney B.
Vance.
What's that?
Courtney Vance. Courtney B. Vance.
Vance, not Lawrence. Vance. Thank you.
Yeah.
Courtney Vance. Like, him and Paxton sitting down at that table, not a word was being spoken, and Paxton was just staring right into the confrontation began before even a word was spoken. I was immediately into that scene.
Yeah,
like, I got that.
And it's like, again, it's like, I don't know how much, like, that's one of those things, like, like back then, you don't know how much of this is just like the general, like, blind view of, Hollywood at the time going, all right, we're going to make, the confrontational black guy, versus how much of it was very genuine symbolism of, we're like, the black population has had fucking enough at this point already. It's still 20 years later.
Like, ties in, like, you go back to 2020. I mean, that one woman will live, like, in my, like, the image of that one woman talking about, like, America should be, like, really happy that we're only looking for equality and not vengeance. It's like, yep.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a good point.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and so it's kind of like it really does kind of make sense. Like if you like, you have these you know, highly educated, clearly very privileged, you know, group of white liberals with their one black friend.
Yep, the very 90s, the very like the token black guy.
Right, yeah. Like, and you know every single one of them like believe that they have not a racist bone in their body because look, they're friends with Luke, you know, and he kind of just sort of lets him do that because I don't know. What is he going to do? Make enemies out of his only friends?
See that, like, what I thought was really, really good about it is, like, so this opening scene, you know, I'm a veteran.
Yep.
Listening to some of the points that he was saying, I was like, yeah. And then all of a sudden he went too far, and I was like, oh, damn it.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's interesting about it is that you really do kind of like this weirdly. Everyone has a good point, while at the same time going too far. You know, every single character in this movie starts from a place where you're like, I can see where you're coming from, and then 2 minutes later, you're like, oh Jesus, this person's fucking crazy, and that goes for all of our so-called protagonists as well.
Well, absolutely, because like, so one of the things so Paxton coming in talking about the whole thing, like. The workers, the soldiers, the ones we'll fight, we'll die, we'll kill, like all this stuff. It's like,
yep.
Yeah, dude, we exist so they can exist.
Yeah.
Like, we don't exist so everybody has to be like us. We exist so people like, especially in this country and stuff like that, the whole point is we fight so you don't have to fight.
And right off the bat, they're all confrontational, even to that good point, where they're not even saying like, "Oh yeah, we get that. We're sorry."
No, they just mocked every good point that he brought. And so the thing
like,
is, like, you find out that later on that he's a child rapist and a murderer.
Yeah.
So like you're like all sympathy and all question completely gets removed, and they're completely like, completely vindicated.
Right. Don't they even have point? I'm trying to remember. Again, it's been years. Isn't there? Don't they even like kind of throw in like a hint that maybe he was never even actually at war to begin with, like that it was all bullshit, or is it just that he was a kidnapper?
No, because they said like we'll do it like college kid kills local war hero, like. So they were really worried that it was a real thing, but there might have been some line in there that maybe he was faking it. I guess I didn't catch that one.
I might be remembering.
I will say, when the dude, the liberal gun nut, gets up and puts the blade to Paxton, to Bill Paxton's throat. Oh my God, Doc! Just the filmmaker in you needs to go back and watch that scene, because he goes up and he puts the flat of the blade, then the back of the blade, then the flat of the blade, then the back of the blade. He just kept he couldn't figure out.
He clearly is way over his head. Yeah. And I do remember that scene too, because he was
not prepared to act in a scene with Bill Paxton coming off of Apollo. Like, he was like, Paxton was working with just true powerhouses, and then he slipped over to work on like a buddies thing.
Right.
They were not ready for that.
But he did them a favor, and he brought his A game. That's why he's Bill Paxton.
I completely agree. I even have it sitting here. I have Paxton ! Chewing the scenery up.
Right? Yeah.
But then I got to that point. Okay, yeah, it was right after that with the flat of the blade and everybody reacting to it. Like, that's where I started. And he's taking that. I was like, this is a comedy.
And even and that's the crazy thing. I was like, even in that moment, that guy is still he's taking the position to crack more jokes. Like, he's not just saying, "You'd gone too far, get the fuck out of my house." He's holding a knife to a guy's throat badly and cracking jokes about how the invasion of Iraq was no big deal. And and it's like,
you remember this movie better than you gave yourself credit for.
I guess so. Like I said, it stuck with me.
But here's where we
haven't even gotten into Nora Dunn's whole bit. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Thank you, Nora Dunn. What a pleasant surprise coming into this movie. I had no idea I was going to see her, and unfortunately, like when I was talking to other people today about this movie, they're like, "Who's Nora Dunn?" I'm like, "Come on." But I will say,
I'm going to start questioning your circle of friends if this keeps happening.
they know a lot of other stuff.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
I'm like the only one in my the OG friend circle back from North Dakota. It's me and my one buddy Diggs, huge movie buffs. Everybody else, it's like as you're going, you might come into one's like, "Oh, I've seen that, I know that," and then they might know like everything about one movie.
Right. Okay.
Like, 'cause everybody's a fanatic of something. Okay,
that's true.
So the dude, like the guy who put the knife to his throat, Paxton breaks his arm, and then he's laying on the ground. He's like, "I broke my arm," and then they're like, "He broke his arm." Somebody else is like, "He broke his arm." And I'm just like,
right.
And then he uses
well, and that's the weird thing.
Like, immediately he's like, "I have a broken arm. I'm in so much pain." And then he gets up and puts leans on the table with his broken arm, and then drinks with the wine. I'm like, somebody missed a beat.
You said yourself it was filmed in 18 days. All right.
True.
Clearly, the continuity person was a little
does hammer
overworked.
the importance of a script supervisor and continuity supervisors. Oh my god! And that leads right. I mean, I'm gonna get into this right with the second death scene. But okay, so I had something that just touched my soul from like a really deep place, and I had forgotten all about this from the 90s. The metal fish on the back of the car.
Oh, right. That was that was like the first ever flame war, really, when you think about it.
Do you remember? Yeah, that was everywhere. And as soon as I saw that fish, my brain launched back to the 90s, and I was like, "Oh my god, when's the last time I saw that?"
Yep. Those were the days, man. Those were the days.
Really loved how much this movie embraced the protagonist as like societal antagonists. Like the movie knows that these are the bad guys, and I loved that they recognize that.
Yep.
And let's see what is that. Oh my god, the AIDS talking point about the gays when they brought in the Reverend. About how everybody, like how AIDS is a punishment for... Dude, I remember that talking point.
Yeah, yep.
Like,
no, that was classic.
Like these points,
that's the thing is,
I was expecting like really outlandish or outrageous talking points and stuff like that, but nothing that I heard in this was like...
Literally every single one of those like characters that were brought in, they were caricatures of people who had been on the news saying those exact same words.
But barely caricatures. Like...
Right.
It was like, wow. Okay. All right. So here's what I'm talking about. So yes, like we said, 18 days, independent film, and I get it. But there's a scene where they're passing the wine to the Reverend to kill the Reverend, and what do they like? What's happening with Julie's character? She's sitting there like this, trying so hard not to break, just, and then bam. Immediate cut, and her face is like she's super nervous and scared and worried. But like leading up to that, it was like an SNL, like she was trying not to break.
Right,
had the hardest time moving on from that.
And it's that was kind of one of the interesting things about the film is that it is an extremely dark film, but it is also a comedy, and so they're kind of doing that back and forth. Like they are bringing this guy in. They knowing full well, even though they've sit there and talked themselves up like, no, we're not going to bring him just to kill him. We're going to talk to him. We're going to try to make him, change his mind. And if we can't, then we'll, fix him, whatever it was that they used to justify it. But when you get to that point, like, they're laughing at everything he has to say. They're giggling at each other. They all know this dude's going to die. No one at this table believes that he is actually going to leave this place alive. We've been premeditating this murder since last week. And, but then when it happens, it becomes real. That's the weird thing. It's like when it actually does happen, that's when all of a sudden everybody at the table goes, "Oh shit, we actually did it. This isn't a joke." And
that's what I was about to lead into was because when you were saying like definitely a comedy, the death scene of the Reverend was ridiculously fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember that? I'm curious.
Not really. No, I remember the.
So that was when they, like, early on, where they're like, we should poison them, and we should act like it's not gonna be like they're not gonna know. And then as the Reverend's like, and all that, they're all just like,
oh right. They all try to.
The whole table all doing like the same thing, like tonally, all following this. Oh my god, I was dying. They
think they're trying to comfort him by not like letting on that they know that he was going to die. They think that by freaking out as he dies, they're doing him a service. Yep. I remember that now. Yeah, that was.
So they don't. So the person doesn't know that they're being murdered. That they think that they're just like something's just happening. Like yes,
right.
I made a note. 36 minutes in. Terror completely set in for me. Like the discomfort of the audience member of coming across somebody like this. How far will they go? What are they going to do? Would I be one of the ones that they would murder? Like that's like my brain started thinking like this is like these guys are.
And that's
where I would be one of the ones they'd kill.
And that's kind of like where it comes to a head when we get to the final scene with Ron Perlman. That's kind of like where that whole thing leads up to.
Yeah, and it guided it perfectly. Like the steps, it really followed it, and it landed really well. The epic grave mounds that were in the backyard, like they didn't like.
The tomatoes are everywhere. Like they're like it's like that's the crazy thing. It's like you could almost say the tomatoes are like. The symbol of like
that's what I actually had that in here too because I even realized like oh my god so many tomatoes, but then like the very next scene they had a music montage and all of this and then tomato sauces, like they used the tomatoes as like a symbolism for blood,
right?
So
and then eventually it's even like they're making like they're serving these people spaghetti with spaghetti sauce made from tomatoes grown out of their previous victims. Like,
right. Just, I mean, damn. So, so right after that, so I have Mark Harmon making an appearance, like not advocating nowhere, but what's up?
Out of fucking nowhere. It's amazing. Like these cameos were designed to hit you in the face, like every single time. Just all of a sudden, bang! There's Jason Alexander with hair.
But I did find out how Jason Alexander got in on this.
Oh yeah. He was still in the middle of doing Seinfeld when this was going on, right?
And his wife was cousins of the director.
Nice.
So that's how she nailed Jason Alexander, and I'm wondering if that's how she also got some of the other ones because, like, she did not have a resume before this movie. Like, I don't know how she got this movie, but I did find out that she died of ALS back in 2021, and the director for The Invisible Man gave her special thanks because apparently she had part to do with the story, but she's not even credited as a writer. So I'm not 100% sure what she's being thanked for. But on the topic of Invisible Man, end that movie 11 minutes early.
Okay.
It's really important to do that.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, so Nora Dunn popping as the sheriff, loved it, and also like set aside from the actor who played Mark. I don't think there was really like there was no performances that dipped. Like there were solid performances all the way around.
Yeah.
Mark did bother me, and it made me understand
which one.
Why.
Which one's Mark?
He was the Jewish character with the goatee.
Oh, right, painter dude, right?
Yeah, the painter guy.
Yeah.
He has the same voice issue that I have. And after watching that movie, now I finally understand why it's so like why so many people put so much importance on it. Because you have in the same sentence, he would go from talking like this to talking like this. He couldn't decide where to land.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Okay.
That's a problem that I have because I've had a lot of people like, man, your deep voice is really good. And then I've had another people go, that voice sounds really like there's no vulnerability behind it. So I've been really confused on set on like how I'm supposed to use my voice. and I really felt like that was come from him. But watching him struggle with that, I definitely understand why I lost some gigs.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I don't remember that well, so I can't really speak on that.
He got into the groove throughout the film, but it was really heavy in the first like 4 scenes.
So, like probably in the early days of filming, they're rushing through it. He's still finding his character, kind of thing, is what you're thinking.
If they filmed it in order, then yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God! Finally, when Jason Alexander made his appearance, I had to watch the scene twice because I couldn't figure out why they killed him.
What was his thing again?
So he's pro Earthling, he said. He's like pro Earthling. They're like, I've never met anybody who's anti Earth. He's like, I'm not anti Earth. I'm pro Earthling. Like, you can't really worry about the greenhouse effect if you don't have a house. And then they killed him for that. And I was like, wait a minute, why did they kill him? And I had to go back and watch the scene. I'm like,
I don't actually remember that scene. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah. I mean, so basically they killed him because he was, I guess, anti-protest? Was that what it was?
Huh.
Yeah, no, like, it was a really confusing one. But again, like, Jason Alexander, he just showed up and just eating his food, changing scenes, smoking a cigarette. Like, he was just there having a good time.
Yep.
Okay, yes. Like, once we got to this point in the story, Diaz and the character Mark, they were like losing interest. Like, you really see it. Like, as far as Mark was going, it looked like the murder was leading to erectile dysfunction.
Right.
The one like the liberal gun nut like was out shooting skeet and decided to just kill some birds. Like, you were really starting to see like it's like the way they went about this was the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. Like, instead of starting with little animals and then going up to people, they started with people and then went to little animals.
They were feeling the power is basically what it came down to.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it really did a good job of showcasing that.
Mm-hmm.
Then they wanted to kill the little high school student who loved Thumbelina.
Right, yeah. Oh, right, because she was a purity ring kid, right? She was one of those.
Yeah, she was against sexual education. Like, her whole stance was the high school was forcing them to go through sex ed before graduation.
Right, yeah.
And they were gonna ice her for that. I was like, holy shit, dude, come on.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
No. Okay, so no, Thumbelina was the one that was before her, and they stabbed her because she didn't drink. And then like and then there's like a whole scene of Cameron Diaz just like trying to yank the knife out of this dead body.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if the casting directors were related to Billy Zane, but they're both were Zane, and I gotta say, like, they did a good job casting this.
I feel like Billy Zane would have been in the movie if they were related, considering how many people they had to finagle together through contacts.
That's a good point.
Stuff like
that kind of knocks down what I was just thinking. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Sheriff confronting Luke in the garden. And Luke... Okay, so first Luke and Cameron Diaz, like, their little scene right there, you really see where, like, Vance is getting, like, his career. Like, you see where that's going to come from.
Oh, yeah, no.
The talent is there.
Like, it's one of those, like, he's being very calm, very muted, very monotone in the way he's talking, but like scary as fuck while he's doing it. Like,
quiet rage.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the scene in the with Luke and the sheriff in the garden, and then the sheriff just like hops the fence and then grabs a tomato and takes a bite out of it. Like, weird.
Which, yeah, it's an odd way to collect evidence. I'll give you that. I don't know if corpse tomatoes taste different. That's nothing I've ever Googled before.
Got to imagine heavy in iron.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. Then Ron Perlman showing up just randomly at the airport.
It was a little weird, but, you know, we kind of knew it was coming.
It's writing, you know, you got to do it. I mean...
and it's, you know, he shows up on the TV at the beginning of the movie. He is the catalyst for their attitude and everything. And so we knew he was showing up eventually. He's in the trailer. In fact, in the trailer, they let you know that's how it's going to end. So.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, they gave away the ending, right? Right, that you just didn't know it was the ending. Then,
right,
yes, Ron Perlman at that table, bringing the true philosophy and everything like that.
Then that's the thing. That's the one I really want to talk about. That's the part that's one of those things where that's the scene why I think not just this movie matters, but it's one of those why I think people should be watching it today. Why, if you haven't seen this movie or heard of it, why you should, for two reasons. One, I mean, it's Ron Perlman in probably one of his best performances ever. Yeah. Like Bill Paxton brought his A game for this tiny little nothing film because he's the man. And because he is all of right-wing media as we know it today, every blog, every YouTuber, that's screaming, about QAnon or whatever, it all starts with Rush Limbaugh. He was the pioneer of that. And when you look at, if someone today were to just stumble upon this movie and look at this, they would think that they would probably assume that Perlman is doing some sort of gentle whitewashing of today's pundits, that they don't really believe what they're saying. They're actually closet moderates that are just trying to get a conversation going. No. He's doing Rush Limbaugh. This in the 90s at this point, this was the height of Rush Limbaugh, and he practically was the only one in the game at that point. There was maybe one other person, and his lines are quoting Rush Limbaugh in some respects, and that's who he was. That's the weird thing, is that Rush Limbaugh, for everything that he started, for everything that's come after him, and everything that's done to our politics to this day, the weird thing is the dude openly didn't actually believe what he was saying. And
he was doing it for ratings. That really reminds me of when I saw that video of Tucker Carlson when somebody went up to confront him and all that. He's like, hey man, I'm here with my family and all this stuff. It's the vibe that he was putting off was that his family wasn't allowed to watch the show. That's what the kind of the vibe was. I was kind of catching off of that, was that maybe he's doing this. But what Luke said when they went into the kitchen to discuss it, it's so he's doing all of this for money. So he doesn't even believe in what he's doing it, but he's doing it for money. That's fucking worse. Right. And I was like, I do kind of agree.
It kind of depends. I mean, and that is the question of, because they even say your followers, and he's like, how am I supposed to control nutcases there? And that was Limbaugh's philosophy. And so that is the question, are people supposed to take responsibility for, and that was even an argument we had in the 80s, actually, going back, with fucking what was her name? Tipper Gore, Al Gore's wife, was the one who was trying to get rock music taken off the shelves. If you can believe that. Al Gore, his wife, was the head censor. The warning explicit lyrics label that you'll find on music, that's literally because of Tipper Gore. That was her. She did that. And the reason why is because if someone sang a song about violence, suicide, anything like that, she was like, it's your fault that kids who listen to your music do violent things to themselves or others. And they were like, no, that's crazy. That is definitely
not how that works.
And essentially Limbaugh said the same thing.
Okay.
And that was his argument. And so it's he, and that just sort of snowballed into what we have today. Because there's money in being extreme.
Clearly.
Keeping the lights on.
Okay. So we were talking about the symbolism of the raven or the crow that appeared right away in the beginning. Well, that was good symbolism. A little heavy, but still good.
I think
then we cut to about this once Ron Perlman is giving really, really good arguments and making really good points. They cut to a scene to show the balcony, and the balcony is draped in red light. Just huge massive symbolism for stop.
Red light. I remember this. Red light illuminating tomato vines that have taken over the entire yard and balcony. You can see the tomatoes hanging off of the back.
But
I remember that very clearly. Like, holy shit.
So the symbolism right there, that was good symbolism. What happened immediately afterwards, though, they had, excuse me. So in that same thing, I just looked right to the left of the frame, and there was a red, yellow, and green light. There was a stoplight right next to it, so that was putting a hat on a hat, and just definitely not trusting the audience was going to understand.
No.
So, getting to the end of this film, Luke has Cameron Diaz at gunpoint. She's calling 911. She's like, we've gone too far. We're crazy. This is nuts. We're done. Then they go, cops put her on hold, and then the music clicks, and I just kept, like, I thought that Luke was saying, Mom? But he was saying, like, Mom,
I remember.
He was saying, come on.
I'm trying to remember how did they get...
And it seemed like it was how they talked Luke down from the police that snapped Luke out of it, and then they all hugged him, and then they went to the next room. What's up?
What was the song that was playing on the hold music?
I didn't recognize the song.
Okay.
Maybe it was a really popular one at a certain point. Maybe it was something that was supposed to be connected to that character.
I should have watched the movie again before this conversation. Is what I should have done. Honestly.
Probably.
That's what I get. But I'll remember that for next time. Next time I'll make sure to watch the movie. Both movies we're talking about.
Fair enough. I gave Lightning Jack a rewatch just because I had to. It had been way too long. And then I was hoping they were going to end the movie on whether it was a question, whether Ron Perlman poisoned them all and came out on top. But then they went to the painting, and that completely answered that.
Not really. Actually, I do remember I actually got in an argument with a friend over this exact point after I showed it to a bunch of friends back in the 90s. My friend Carla, because it was me and Burton saw the movie, and then we invited like our girlfriends and a bunch of friends over to see it, which might have been why Corey broke up with me. She might have not taken this movie as well. Hard to tell. But I remember getting in an argument with Burton's girlfriend, Carla, because that scene, because it's like, he pours the wine. It's kind of implied that maybe he poured them the poison wine, that he figured out the wine was poison and poured them all a drink.
Oh, definitely.
And then it fades to black.
The sheriff was missing. They had the newspaper. He saw the mounds and the graves in the backyard. Like, he definitely put it together. And then it fades to black as they're all drinking and he's not. So yeah, it's definitely heavily implied. But then yes, they go to that scene of the painting, and that's the thing is like. But the painting is painted in the style of somebody who should be dead.
It's Luke's. It's one of Luke's paintings. That's the thing, or not Luke, not Luke. Mark's paint. It's one of Mark's paintings. So it's like, and he's already established that he is very much a sort of like esoteric, symbolic guy. He's absolutely the kind of guy who would paint that kind of painting as a like. And this was the day we stopped murdering people. Us as murderers came to an end thanks to this guy. Like that is absolutely his style.
Like it's not they actually died, but it was the act of the murders and everything like that died.
Right, exactly. That was the day that they kind of snapped out of it and stopped killing people. And so that part of their lives had died.
I like it better. I like it better if they're dead.
And that makes sense. And you add that to, like the voiceover. There's a voiceover, and I remember too, like it ends with while they're showing that painting, you hear a voiceover from Perlman's character, and what he's saying. I can't remember what exactly he's saying, but I remember talking about.
Are you ever going to run for like the highest office? And he's like, arguably, I already have the highest office.
That's a quote from a Hitler speech.
Didn't know that.
So yeah, it's one of those. It is a very, very wide open ending. Are they dead? Are they not? Is he really full of shit, or was he just saying that because he knew he was in enemy territory? Is he really Hitler? Is he really exactly what they were afraid of, and they should have killed him?
Did he actually poison them, or did he sit down and accept the challenge? Because he knew that he was in inventory, he figured out that they were killers. Did he? Because what I was hoping was either he killed them or he sat down and accepted the intellectual challenge. That, like, before the scene ended, I was
like Vizzini
really
style. You're thinking? Like Vizzini style from Princess Bride. You're thinking?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was hoping for, and I thought like maybe that's where it was leading, because that's what the scene was. He broke their entire point, like their entire perspective and everything, with conversation.
Yeah.
All right. So, in conclusion, for me, I wouldn't put this out as a masterpiece, and I wouldn't say it's like incredibly important to see. However, damn, it's relevant.
Yeah, I would agree. That's been my.
And I don't think it's ever going to not be relevant.
No,
sadly.
No, it's definitely a indie movie. It's flawed in a lot of ways. You pointed out the symbolism is very heavy-handed in it. But yeah, like it is a profoundly relevant statement. And I've been hard pressed to like. I know that there's been a couple movies come out that like there's that Civil War movie that's coming out. There was The Hunt, came out a couple years ago, where they it seems like they're kind of going that same direction, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen either of them, so I don't know how they compare. But that's the thing, is like when you take this sort of like political discourse to the extreme kind of story, I haven't seen anything like it since. And so that's kind of like where I feel like what makes it important is that this was something that needed to be talked about then.
And it still needs to be talked about.
And that's the question, is like maybe maybe because it wasn't talked about then as much as it should have been, it may be a little too late now.
That's a really good point.
They've already stormed the Capitol. One might say that the Rubicon has been crossed. So
true. I mean that it still blows my mind that we're living in this era. But I guess everything that you're saying, I do agree with. I guess when I say like it's not like when I say the importance, I mean like the Matrix using bullet time camera for the first time, right. Things like that. Like it's not one of those. It's not one of those like What's Eating Gilbert Grape, or it's not cinematically. It's not one of those groundbreaking. However, the message of the film is damn. Like it absolutely is a solid one.
Yep.
And I say it's definitely worth a watch, 100%. And I appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
Since you brought up The Matrix, and I know we've already got our slate of movies for like the next few episodes, but I'm going to add one to it now because you brought up The Matrix. Bound came out, I want to say 2 or 3 years before The Matrix. It was the film the Wachowskis did before The Matrix. It's actually the first movie to use bullet time. They used that movie as a proof of concept so that they could get the budget to do it in The Matrix.
That's good to know.
Yeah. And it is a profoundly good movie. Amazing movie. I would go fisticuffs over with, like, I would say it is nothing like The Matrix. It is an entirely different film. It is not sci-fi. It is a crime drama. But I think you'd be really, really hard pressed if you are a Wachowskis fan. A true Wachowskis fan would have a hard time deciding whether Bound or Matrix was their favorite of the two.
I don't know if I would call myself a Wachowski fan. I love some of their work, but
then you absolutely have to see this one.
Then I'll definitely give it a shot. So, all right, are we
watch it with the wife?
Are we closing up our section on The Last Supper?
I think so.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
I think I said I had everything to say, and yeah, it sounds like it was good for you.
yeah, I give it a 7 out of 10. Like,
Yeah, that's about right.
yeah, I mean yeah, it's got some acting problems, but not a lot, and not even many. It's got some technical problems, again, not a lot, but they are there, and some of them are pretty damn glaring. But okay. Immediately after filming this movie, that house burned down.
Really?
Just to add a little bit of mystery to it.
Who
I
owned
don't know
the
what was
house?
going on. Yeah, but the director is now dead. Died of ALS. The movie set, the house that they shot in, burned down immediately after that. And yeah, seems like all the
nice
luck was
house,
reserved
too.
for the
That's a damn
actors who
shame.
performed in it. There's Lightning Jack.
Hey, all right. Lightning Jack.
All right, Doc, you take
They
charge.
certainly do not make movies like this anymore. I'll say that for sure. It was, and I remembered why I did not see it originally. Even though I was a Paul Hogan fan at the time, I was not a Western fan at the time.
This is a Western. It's not modern. It's flat out, it's a Western.
Yep. It was very low key. It was very low stakes. It was, you had it was about a couple of weirdos living in a weird time trying to find their feet. Just a good old fashioned human story that you just don't see anymore. They do not bother making movies like this nowadays because they're not high stakes enough.
Epic.
They're not epic. No one's going to be, if that were to come out today, it's not going to be a buzz on Twitter or anything like that. Like, this is a movie that just sort of like back in the day when going to the movies meant killing an afternoon for $4. This was exactly what you needed. This is exactly what you asked for.
Very good TBS movie.
Yeah. Which is weird because I could see how, like, I feel that it made me feel nostalgic for those days. It made me feel nostalgic for when I was younger and when that was what my weekend was. My weekend was just going to the movie theater, finding a movie that maybe I'd ever heard of or not, but I hadn't seen yet, throwing down my $4 and spending the afternoon in the free air conditioning. And it was fine. I saw so many shitty movies that way.
Absolutely. That was a weekly thing for me. Like, every single week I would go to the movie theater. I would see whatever had popped up new. I think I mean, for a long time there, I think I saw almost every movie that hit the theaters.
Yeah, I had I had a couple of years like that. In fact, I got a story on that with what was it, Austin Powers. Like, I didn't even want to see the first Austin Powers. Like, I saw the trailer to it on TV and I thought that looks like the dumbest goddamn movie ever made. But then one weekend I show up at the movie theater and it is literally the only movie at the theater that I have not already seen. And I'm like,
So you had to.
Okay. I'm like, either this is what I'm watching or I'm going home and doing nothing. And
That is
so
how
I went
I
and
saw
watched it.
the
And
only
holy
movie that I
shit,
ever
was
went
it
to by
so
myself.
good.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's Austin Powers. It became what it is today. Yeah.
Absolutely. But also, like, in that movie, just to sidebar away from this for 1 second, one of the things I really love about that is Seth Green, when he approached that movie, he tried to give it his Oscar performance. Like, he was trying to be a serious child with his dad problems and everything like that. And it was just the straight man with the goof is what made that, like, some of those scenes, all the scenes with Scott, perfect.
And I think he knew that. I think that was the whole thing. He went in knowing, okay, I'm the straight man in this routine, and yeah.
Because he said, that he met Mike Myers when he was getting his head shaved to play Dr. Evil. So he's like, oh, this isn't a bald cap. We're committing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what the problem is I did have trouble staying focused on it because of that. Like, I unfortunately have fallen victim to that.
You've adapted to the era.
yeah, that need for the big thing. Like if it, I think maybe, and well, and the interesting, and to its credit, actually, just as I was starting to slip away, just as it was starting, I'm sitting here going like, how fucking long is this thing? Just as that was kicking in, that's when they bring us the beginning, the setup of the climax, when the bounty hunters show up at his bar and are talking to his lady.
I felt like it was paced pretty well.
Beverly D'Angelo. Is there any era of time where she is not smoking fucking hot? Pardon me
really
for
don't think so.
Getting a little crass, but holy shit.
She's dynamite. She's blotted dynamite flat out.
Yep. So, she's not dead yet, but pour one out for her too, right next to Bill Paxton's shot,
Oh man, that's always weird to me. That keeps hitting me that Bill Paxton is dead.
He shouldn't be. He was only like what, 45, 46 when he went? Like that's a crime if you ask me. That's one of those like shake your fist at God moments.
Yeah, what happened to him?
I don't remember. I want to say stroke or cancer, something like that.
Ooh.
He died during COVID, but it wasn't COVID that got him. I remember that much.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, pandemic took a few.
Mm-hmm.
And aside from that, the pandemic took people that went from being active and stuff like that and put them seated in a house for a year, and a lot of them had heart attacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was just a really bad time for us.
Tell me.
As a world.
Yeah.
All right. So
at least we didn't get it as bad as some other countries, though. Did it say it one more time?
Did you have any highlights from this movie?
Highlights from the movie? Yeah. Well, like what really got me was definitely right out of the bat, like before they've even been established as like friends, we're jumping right into a scene where Cuba Gooding Jr. is gonna suck snakebite poison out of Paul Hogan's ass.
Right.
That's usually like a little
City
further
Slickers,
into the
lifelong friends.
Right, yeah, where it's like, okay, it's like it's not just about saving this man's life, my friend's life. It's about putting my entire manhood and pride aside to do so. And they even went so far as like Cuba even like made Jack put the gun to his head to get him to do it. That's how far they took this joke. No, if I'm going to be suck on your ass, I need you to have a gun to my head. That's how this is going to work. And this was, and they classic 90s humor, of course. But they did it so early on in the film. That's what really got me, was that they've known each other for like all of 5 minutes at this point, and we're already getting to that joke. That impressed me, I guess, to a certain degree. I did
their chemistry. I felt it. I could have watched a lot of movies with Paul Hogan and Cuba.
Oh yeah. Well, and also I think overall what got me was how, like, Paul Hogan. So this man is Crocodile Dundee. That's the thing. My first introduction to him was Crocodile Dundee. The man is the face, the image, everything that we as Americans perceive of Australia is Paul Hogan. Just absolute manhood and confidence. And now in this one, he's playing Lightning Jack Kane, who is the exact opposite of Crocodile Dundee in every way.
I gotta say,
except for the shark.
I thought you were gonna mention this, but I gotta throw something to this. The amount of times that he's got to, like, he keeps bragging about how many times he's been conned by people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, only $75 for this bracelet. I thought that was.
It keeps away grizzlies. Only $30.
Yeah, even in Wild West dollars means he's paying like $200-300 each for these things. It's Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, no, like he was definitely he was getting taken like crazy, and he was just constantly bragging about it. And oh man, every time it was getting a chuckle out of me every time. Well, what did you think about Cuba's physical comedy?
Cuba's physical comedy was good, and it was funny too, because like there were even moments like, I think my favorite was like at the same time, and it was the scene near the end where he accidentally discharges the rifle and or the shotgun and gets a bunch of people in the ass. Right, yeah, and they all turn around and he just kind of hides his gun and points at the dude next to him with the shotgun.
Yep.
Like that probably was my favorite moment. It was pretty funny, but at the same time when I saw it, it like immediately like right now I remember the trailer to this movie. That scene was in the trailer, and like all of a sudden the memory of all that came back, and I was like, right now I remember hearing about this movie. But yeah, I'd say that was probably one of the finer moments in that.
Was that your biggest laugh? Because I know what my biggest laugh was.
Biggest laugh. What was my biggest laugh?
And the biggest laugh for me, it was a really delayed one too, which is what made it so like it made it hit me even harder.
Mm-hmm. I think my biggest laugh actually was after his night with the hooker, like when she's doing the whole like, wait, you can't talk, so that means no matter what I do to you, you can't tell anyone, and immediately brings out the saddle and bridle, and he's looking like I don't know, and then we cut to the next morning, he's walking through town with a huge grin on his face, and I'm like, holy cow, what did she do to him?
I know, I had that same thought, because I spent like a solid couple minutes after that watching it going like, did she wear it? Did he wear it? What happened in that bedroom?
Doesn't matter. What matters is it made him a man.
Thing.
That's what matters.
He was never going to say. Like that was like I thought that was brilliant. But what got the absolute biggest laugh out of me was when they went in to go rob the bank and they completely like messed it up. They got everything wrong and all of it, and then they just leave, and everybody that was in the bank just starts laughing.
Yep.
Like
that was a good moment. Yeah.
I was everybody in the bank. As they started laughing, I started laughing too, and it just got harder and harder, and I was doubling over with laughter. I don't know why that hit me so hard, but just like when Cuba almost shoots his foot and the silent scream, all that stuff. Oh my god. Like outside of the brothel, like Paul Hogan teaching him how to hump like he's like riding a horse. God.
And yeah.
Yep. Sorry, this one, or sorry, Lightning Jack is supposed to be yours. You talk.
Oh no, that's fine. No. And I'm trying to think of anything else that just sort of stood out for me. And I guess that's kind of what I appreciate about it, is that it, like I said, it was exactly what you ask for a $4 movie afternoon. There wasn't a lot there. It was these two performers. It was Paul Hogan and Cuba going, hey, I've got a free summer. You want to make a movie? What are we going to do? Fuck it. The Universal Western set is free this week. Let's go make a Western, let's gather together all of the, like those two guys in the town, the marshal and the newspaper guy that he's talking to. These guys have played the curmudgeonly old man in every movie for 30 fucking years, and here they are playing curmudgeonly old man in the same scene together. I was like,
noticed Commissioner Gordon, right?
Original Commissioner Gordon. Yes.
Yep, the OG.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't remember what this actor's name is, but he played Texas Pete, Two Finger, like Pistol Pete, in the Mask of Zorro with Antonio Banderas and Anthony Hopkins. And he played the sheriff who was like Paul Hogan's, like Cade's old buddy.
Oh, right. Yeah, I did not recognize him. I didn't see that. Yeah. Oh no, what got me is fucking what's his name? Roger Daltrey. Out of fucking nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
The fucking lead singer of the Who just shows up and plays an asshole gunslinger for 5 minutes. Like Jesus,
for why? For what reason?
For what? Yeah. But you know what? That does define Roger Daltrey's acting career. He is the Who. That's who he is. But he is also acting is a hobby for him. This is a guy who pops up as an actor in the weirdest goddamn places that don't make sense. Did you know he played a semi-regular character on the Highlander TV series?
No.
That's who Robert Daltrey is. Yes, he was an immortal for like a half a dozen episodes of the Highlander TV series made by the USA Network.
I barely remember that as even as a thing.
Oh, I was into that show. I was watching it every week. I did not care that it was formulaic. I loved the sword fights. I was there for it every week.
So let's see. I want to say, as I was rewatching Lightning Jack, like he's almost like toxic masculinity and everything like that. Mm-hmm. Like maybe he is, but
that, like I said, he's playing the opposite of Crocodile Dundee in this one, where he is that same sort of like, he's someone who, like, essentially Lightning Jack is someone who wishes he was Crocodile Dundee.
Yes,
that's the character he's playing.
Because like very early in the movie, he's like, how can I like the way that they're writing about me? How can I send this home to my mates and stuff like that? Like he's worried about how he looks and stuff like that.
Right.
Croc Dundee did not care about that.
Right, and it's all very much like he is the paragon of the, I don't want to say toxic masculinity, but the sort of misguided picture of masculinity that tends to have toxic habits attached to it, where you're more concerned about your image. Yeah. And which, of course, all of the gags were about breaking that down. Like he's got to have Cuba suck on his ass to get the snake poison out, and then when he's showing him how to hump a chick like riding a horse, the two of them are in the back alley doing hip thrusts at each other just as two other guys come by and
they're like, what are you immediately without missing beach.
Yeah, and he even did the whole like put his hands out like he's ready to quick draw on him and be like, "You boys got business here?" Like that was 100%. Very much. That was very much covering up for accidentally being unmanly for a second.
What I thought was so brilliant about Cuba Gooding Jr.'s performance in this is, like, all the physical comedy, everything that he had to do, not one time did it seem over the top or like something somebody who was mute wouldn't do.
That's true. Yeah, it was very right up to the edge of reality. Yes. I don't know. I guess maybe it was just me. I did kind of miss Cuba's voice in it, and maybe that was the point. Maybe that was why he wanted to do that. Maybe he wanted to do this, as he wanted the challenge of doing all of the physical stuff and portraying everything non-verbally, which he did do well. I agree, but I did spend a lot of the time kind of going like, I wish he would just. I miss the Cuba one-liners. Like, as much as Paul Hogan is doing okay here, like I'm like the kind of things where he would. I'm like trying to think of examples here. I'm trying to think of the Cuba movies I've seen before where he will just dress someone down with a single sentence. Like I missed that for Cuba.
Like in Jerry Maguire and stuff like that.
Like in Jerry Maguire, and that I'm trying to remember the one he followed up Jerry Maguire with, where he was the lawyer, where he was like playing Sean Connery's lawyer or something like that. I can't remember.
I know. I'm still trying. Like I should have looked it up, but I'm just still trying to think about the one where he played the Navy diver.
Right. Yeah. Which I had not seen that one. Yeah.
That's a good one. I should remember the name of that.
But yeah, no, it was yeah. I don't know if it's one that's going to stick with me the way Last Supper did, but I'm definitely I can easily say I miss there being more movies like that where it is low stakes. It is just a good way to a decent human story with not a lot of window dressing, not a lot of need for a budget, let alone having a huge budget.
No, you just had multiple, not just two, but you have multiple really good actors. bringing some very solid chemistry to the screen and just spending an hour and a half hanging out with them.
One of my favorite quotes when it comes to movie production actually was from a podcast that I heard years ago, and it was like, I think it was the Cracked podcast or something like that, but it was, it was not a profound like speaker or anything like that, but the line that he used, like, I loved it so much that I wrote it down, and I've been meaning to like make a decoration of it, where what he said is, it turns out that most movie productions are like some sort of weird summer camp where a bunch of high-strung lunatics set $100 million on fire. This movie embodied that to the T in all the best ways. Like, this clearly was Cuba and Paul being a couple of high-strung lunatics setting a movie budget on fire for fun, and I was there for it. And I wish we would see more of it.
Yeah.
As
buddy comedies that don't have to have ginormous explosions and stuff.
Yeah. There was no giant spider to fight at the end. Nothing like that. It was just
the climactic battle. They weren't even in the climactic battle.
Right. Exactly. Yes. The climax of this movie was them getting what they came for
and sneaking out the back
with no fanfare whatsoever, using someone else's climax as cover for their quiet getaway. Beautiful. Loved it.
That's why I put this one as heavily underrated. Actually, I should have said that about the last one too. I don't know if I can call the last one underrated because it's not known.
Yeah.
So if it was known and people didn't really talk about it and stuff like that, I would call it underrated. But I think this one just should be known. Lightning Jack, I don't know. I might be able to say exactly the same thing.
Well, and I would say that this is a movie that unless you are either A, Paul Hogan fan, or B, a Cuba Gooding Jr. fan, you're not likely to even know it exists, because
true.
I mean, I'll tell you, when the in memoriam of either of these guys come up, no clips from this movie are coming in for sure. It's going to be all their other stuff.
Well, I mean, like shortly after this, Cuba was in the Tuskegee Airmen.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. This is not that.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, when Paul Hogan is telling him, he's like, when you came back for me and you were dressed in black, I thought you were death. I love you like a brother, and I could hug you. And then he turns around and Cuba's like,
that was.
And
good,
then he looks up and
then Cuba does the same.
How
the
fast
same
he
thing.
did
Yeah,
that was so good.
He was like, yeah, just the little like, I wasn't really looking for a hug, and spit in, like, yeah, like the same thing, like, I was unmanly for a second,
so
better cover
good.
up real fast.
So solid, so natural. I can't believe, so when I said that I thought that Cuba would do a lot more physical comedy after this, I guess I didn't really take into consideration that he never stopped doing physical comedy. He is a very physical actor.
No, he has 6 or 7 BTUs of body movement with behind every word that he says in every movie. Yeah, that's for sure. He's always been very physical.
Very, yeah. So I guess I got to walk that statement back. He just. I'm really happy that this movie exists. I'm glad that this performance exists. I'm glad that I get to see a powerhouse actor like Cuba Gooding Jr. do a performance without saying a word of dialogue.
It reminds me, I remember years ago, I can't remember what I was looking for on the internet, but what I came across was someone had scanned in a playbill. Basically, they had gone to see a play, and and I guess they were running a blog of like, these are the plays I've seen, and then they would scan in the playbills, and I came across one that was on there, and it was a moment where I just became so angry at the world, because what this playbill was a performance of, I think it was like a two nights only performance of Waiting for Godot, performed by Steve Martin and Robin Williams.
Whoa.
Right. Waiting for Godot, done by Steve Martin and Robin Williams. 2 nights only in New York City. Not only did I never get to see that, there are millions of people in the world who will have to live their whole lives never seeing it. And that's a fucking crime, if you ask me. I am angry at both of them for making that so impermanent. But if you are a Cuba Gooding Jr. fan, you have this.
Chip.
Yeah. So, just in that regard, Cuba Gooding Jr. and Paul Hogan both are far more kinder to their fans than Steve Martin and Robin Williams. Because Steve Martin and Robin Williams gave their amazing collaborative moment of history performance 2 nights only on a stage in New York, where maybe a grand maximum of like 400 people ever saw it. Because it was in a black box theater while we're at it.
That's crazy. I wonder if there's any footage from that.
It's a good question. If there is, I would.
Yeah, well, yeah, but getting footage from plays and stuff like that, like getting
those tend to get vaulted away. Yeah,
that's hard. That's hard to find. All right. So, do you have any final thoughts on Lightning Jack, or final thoughts that you wanted to jump in on The Last Supper?
No, I think I said everything I wanted to say. Yeah. I'm gonna have to. I was planning on doing a TikTok video on The Last Supper. Now I'll have to try to remember everything I said here to do that.
You don't really have to remember. You can just go back and watch the video.
Oh, that's right. This is a recording.
Yeah. And I can put the edit together if you want. Chop some short. We could discuss that after we're done recording.
Yeah. For the should we tease our next film for those on the off chance we get people watching our first ever episode? We want to tease what we're going to do next.
Sure. Have you decided what your next film is going to be that you're going to have me check out?
I'm going to. You know what? Since we said it, I know I've already listed off a couple other movies, but since we said it, I'm going to say Bound. I think you should see Bound.
Okay.
Yep. And here's and get the one. Make sure you get the one that's the correct year, because there are actually a couple movies named Bound.
I'll make sure I have it right.
So yeah, you want to get the one by the Wachowskis, and it stars Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon.
Interesting.
I know you're thinking, why have I not heard of this film? I'll do you one better.
Yeah,
I'll do you one.
I'm curious why I don't know about this.
Yeah, it's going to blow your mind. And I even have a story about this movie, about when I recommended this movie to somebody at one of the hotels I worked at once, and there's a literal story behind that whole thing about what went down. I'm gonna let you watch it first before I tell that story, not because.
Okay.
Actually, no. You know what? I'll tell the story now. This might actually help you get excited for it. So.
Okay.
No spoilers. So the hotel I worked at the time was an older building, historical building it was a historical building, so they couldn't renovate it. So they did not have pay-per-view movies. This was like the only hotel I ever worked for that did not have, probably the only hotel in existence, left in existence, that didn't have pay-per-view movies. What we had instead is we had our TV system that had 2 blank channels, and then we had a whole bunch of VHSs in the back. So if someone wanted to watch a movie, we could go, okay, tune your TV to channel 1. We'll put this VHS in for you to watch. And if both of them were already used up, we'd be like, sorry, our 2 movie channels are already filled, but feel free to tune in channel 1 or 2 and watch whatever is playing,
What year was this?
This would have been 2003.
Oh my, dude, I thought we were talking like 1988.
Nope. It was, like I said, it was a historical building. We could not renovate it. We could not install the cables required for a pay-per-view system. Mm-hmm. So one night I'm working the night shift, of course. I'm there alone, and some guy, comes up to the desk, as he's coming in, and he comes up to me, really quiet, and he's like, you guys, you don't go pay-per-view, nothing like that? And I go, no. And I explained to him the movie system, and he goes like, And he's just like real quiet for a second. And he does like the look over his shoulder. It's midnight. There's no one there, but he's looking over his shoulder anyway. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I see. Yeah. And so he's like, you got any adult stuff in there? And I'm like,
does
no,
Skinamax play here?
Yeah. And I'm like, nah, sorry. We don't have anything like that. And he's just like, man. And then I go, although, and he's like, what? And I go, we do have one movie. And he's like, really? And I go, it's called Bound. And I go, it's made by the same people that made The Matrix. And he goes, is it hot? And I'm like, you're going to like it. Let me just say that. You're going to like it. And he goes, okay. And I'm like, go up to your room. I'll give you 5 minutes and I'll start the movie. And he goes, okay, all right. And he does that. And I go and I pop the movie in.
Yeah, go light your
An hour
candles,
later,
run your bath water.
Right, whatever it is you got to do what you got to do. You got 5 minutes, you know. An hour goes by. The elevator doors open. The same dude comes out. He is fully dressed. He's got his luggage with him. He marches up to the front desk where I am, looking like he's ready to kill somebody. And I'm like, oh shit, I made the wrong call. Comes up to me and he goes, like, finger in my face. He goes, I have a plane to catch, so you need to tell me how it ends right now.
Shit.
And I go, I'm going to do you a favor and refuse to answer that question. And he goes, you motherfucker, and goes out the door.
You gave that man a new favorite movie.
I did, yes.
All right. Bound.
So, yes. Bound. 1994, I want to say. Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to stick in the same year then. You want to check out A Low Down Dirty Shame.
A Low Down Dirty Shame. Okay.
Correct.
I think I remember you mentioning that one.
That's the one starring and directed by Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Right. Okay, yeah, I did like his stuff in the early days. That's for sure. Yeah.
It's about this. Is it shortly? Same time frame as "Don't Drink Your Gin and Juice in the Hood." Like, well,
right.
The full.
I remember that one quite well. Yes, I do remember that one quite well. That was a classic. That's a classic.
Yeah, and when I saw that movie, it was a long time after I saw Low Down Dirty Shame. So Keenan Ivory Wayans plays the mailman in that, and he has just the tiniest cameo in that movie.
Yeah,
and I lost my freaking mind when that happened.
Yep. Well, that's my personal from that same movie. My personal favorite was when they're showing like the introducing the love interest, the who's also the town bicycle, and they're showing like all the kids that she's got from all the different baby daddies, and one guy turns to the other and goes like, that bitch got more kids than Ms. Wayans.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I can't. Yeah. I think, if I noticed that, it's been a long time.
Yeah, that was my favorite line from the whole movie. I was like, oh man, yeah, this is good.
Oh, if that's the case, then I know Kim Wayans has an appearance in this, and like one of her lines might be your favorite thing from that movie.
Okay, all right.
But
I will check it out then.
So next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and we'll be back on discussing A Low Down Dirty Shame and the Wachowski siblings, Bound.
Yep. All right. Catch you later.
All right. Thanks again, Doc.
My pleasure.